Our last speaker is Ming Lei, who's going to talk to us from the NCI about NCI training and career development grants.
Good afternoon. Seems like we need a little more energy in the room, right? Okay. Good afternoon again. I'm the chief of the cancer training branch that manages NCI's grant award that specifically support young investigators. We sponsor a number of funding mechanisms in the form of institution training grants, fellowships, and career development awards that support young investigators at different career stages. I think most relevant to you guys in this audience are the K08, K23 that are supporting the clinician or physician scientists who are interested in a research career. So what I'm going to do this afternoon is to spend a few minutes, give you a brief introduction of these two mechanisms, so that give you some basic information, what their goals are, and what level of competitions they have. But for those of you who do have questions for the other funding mechanisms, I will be here afterward in the roundtable sessions. You can go chat with me. And also, I do have sort of the hard copy for all the summary of all the mechanisms. They're all also going to be at my table. So come grab one, all right? So, So the K08 and K23, they are mentored career development award for clinician scientists. The goal is to provide intensive training that leads to research independence. Right? This is important, keep that in mind. So the eligible candidates are fellows or non-tenured junior faculty with clinical degrees and actually still practicing medicine. And the candidate needs to be U.S. citizen or permanent resident. The difference between those two is basically K08 supports basic and translational research, and K23 support patient-oriented research. This is the NIH jargon. A lot of people say it's a clinical research, but NIH, this is the wording. So what an awardee get is, at this point, is $100K per year for salary, plus French benefit, plus $30K per year for research support. And the award is up to 5 years. So together, award for 5 years, this can be $700,000. Right? And the most importantly, with the award, your institution has to assure you, as well as NCI, that you're going to be provided 75% of your professional effort for your research. In other words, it's called protected time. This is vital for the success of young investigators in pursuing research. So, oops, I'm keeping doing this. So this is a summary of in the last 5 years. You can see that the blue bar represent the number of applications we receive each year, and the red bars represent the number of awards we'll give out each year, and the line, of course, is the success rate. So you can see that each year we receive somewhere between 50 to 80 applications, average out around 60, and the success rate is somewhere between 20 and 35. So let's say, to be fair, is somewhere between, average will be 20 or 25%. So it's not the best as we want, but it's still much better than the R1 success rate, right? To give you a sense what a successful applicant look like, So you can see for KO8, the majority of the the awardees actually have MD, PhD degrees. And in terms of a career stage, you see that most of them, 70% of them, are in the stage of fellows or attending physicians before they prior to reach the assistant professor stage. So the assistant professor is about 30%. Okay, they are all outstanding at the time of submitting the application. They all have multiple number of publications. Some of them have multiple number of publications, right? So this is KO8. For K23, the portfolio is much smaller. It's about half of the size of the KO8. You can see that on average, we receive 25 to 30 applications per year, and the number of award is somewhere around 5 each year. So the success rate is slightly lower than KO8, around 15 to 20%. Okay, this is a KO8, K23. So here there is a pretty interesting difference here. So for K23, you can see 80% of the awardees are MDs. Not that many MD PhDs. And in terms of a career stage, they are slightly later than the KO8 awardees. You see 80% of them are already assistant professors, and there are few actually are associate professors, and others are fellows and attending physicians, instructors. Again, probably reflecting that they're a little bit later in career stage, or maybe it's the difference between more clinical research versus more basic research. The number of publications they have tend to be even higher. Okay, so this is K23. So for the rest part of my presentation, I'm going to highlight the case-specific component in the application and trying to share a few tips with you in how to addressing those uniqueness in K applications. So if you look at open the NIH application guide for R1, this is the main component of R1. This is what you're going to say. It's specific aims, research strategy. As our previous speaker mentioned, the basic frame or structure is significance, innovation, approach it. And then there's a biographic sketch, right? But if you look at the key component for key awards, first of all, those blank spaces are filled up with the case-specific component, okay? And secondly, the main component of a K application, in other words, where the research strategy is for R1, now actually have more elements in it. They're including candidate information, goals and career development, and research strategy. So the more detailed breakdown, if you click open, there are actually 4 elements: candidate background, goals and objectives, career development and training activities, then research plans. All this together is 12 pages. Okay, that is equivalent to the 12 page in R1. So it's fair to say there are many case-specific components to pay attention to, in addition to a research proposal. Trying to say it a different way, a K grant application is much more than a research proposal. All right. So here is a list of this case-specific element that I mentioned. So those elements by themselves can rarely carry an application. Doesn't carry you to the dreamland, but they are more than sufficient to break your application if you don't address them properly. So I tend to look at them as three groups. The first group focused on, I think, is the reviewers and NCI asked for your story and your plan for growing up as a researcher. The second group is the case-specific research plan. There's some difference between this and the typical R1 grant, and I'm going to get back to this a little bit later. And the third block, I term them as a section that you have to ask someone else to write it for you. Okay? So let's go on. So the first part, the first block, as I mentioned, basically candidate background, career goals and objectives. In those elements, a successful applicant typically describe their scientific journey and their commitment to research. Right? Research is not easy. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody actually wants to do it. So why do you want to do it, right? And describe your goals and why the key award actually is essential for your growth and for your success. So you want to make a case for yourself and appeal to the reviewers. And the third component is the most important in this section. That is the career development and training activities. It's very important in the K application. So here, I think there are three major aspects. One is to patch up knowledge gap. Remember, if you are an established investigator, you have been doing the research with a team, with a lab for many years. So you have established many expertise. But when you're writing as a K applicant, you usually mastered one or two aspects. But your research proposal can often be broader than what you have demonstrated that you have expertise. So in that case, you want to describe that you want to have a plan to learn new technology or even new disciplines. All right? The second component is the so-called career development activities. That's what I call it, getting ready to be a PI. Those activities can include learning, grant writing, like what we're doing here, teaching, mentoring, management, managing a lab. You know, none of us have gone to business school yet, right? But you're going to manage a team or lab nonetheless. And leadership. And finally, very importantly, in this session, you want to present a plan to establish a mentor-mentee relationship. Okay, how you're going to interact with your mentor and mentors, what are you going to learn, what are you going to get advice for. So this is the first group. The second block I call the case-specific research plan. So first and foremost, you notice that this is the page limit is less than 12 pages now, right? It's all together. This plus the other part is 12 pages. So typically is a typical length for this session for a K applicant is 6 to 9 pages. And you need to propose a project most of the time actually only for one person. You don't have a lab yet. You don't have a team yet. And this with a definitive period of time. This is typically 4 or 5 years. So you need to be focused, and you need to make sure that what you propose is durable, feasible. All right. Remember, most of the time by one person to be done within 5 years. And previous speakers mentioned that when it's appropriate, use I, because it is you, not we. You don't have a lab yet, right? And earlier I mentioned the goal of those awards are to help you develop research independence. Therefore, you want to pay attention to project long-term viability of your research project so that the reviewers as well as NCI can consider what you propose is a good foundation for research independence that will be supported by R1 grant later. Okay. Another point that, as I mentioned earlier, you probably don't have all the expertise you need to carry out this research proposal, right? So you do need to address knowledge or skill gaps. So this is a good spot to reference back to your career development and training activity discussed in the previous session. And you can lean on your collaborators, okay? And finally, I would emphasize that because all the K Award applications are reviewed in a single study section that covers all the areas of cancer research and the multiple K mechanisms. Therefore, you should write for the understanding and appreciation of a generalist instead of just for the expert in your field. Okay? Okay. The last block, as I mentioned, I call it the session that you have to ask someone else to write it. So those someone else are the mentors, collaborators, and your institutional leaders, right? So first of all, we already heard they're all very, very busy. They're busy people, so you better to engage them early. To engage them early and to let them know what you want, what are your specific needs. All right. So for the mentors, you want a mentoring plan that is tailored for you. A simple notion that I mentioned that he or she will attend my lab meeting on a regular basis is not something specific enough. It's not good enough. All right. And reviewers often appreciate an explicit statement from the mentor that he or she will allow you to bring your project to your own lab or group later. That's a hallmark of a research independent investigator. And the collaborator, for collaborators, you want their letter to address specific needs in your research project. Don't confuse this with reference letters. So one of the errors we often see is that probably because of communication, not clear communication, we see a collaborator letter that say, oh, he or she is an outstanding candidate. That's not the point, right? You want to say, I'm going to provide him the mouse line that he needs for this project. And for the institution leaders, typically they are the deans or department chairs. You want them to describe the resources specifically relevant to you, not a general list of what they have in the institution. Right? In many of the institutions, the resources are pretty good, but a long list sometimes serves as a distraction rather than a specific strength. And you want them to provide assurance of support for the duration of the Key Award, which is 5 years. It's pretty long, as well as beyond the 5 years. So finally, I want to let you know this is our website. You get to this web page, you can find program announcement. I encourage you to read. You can find the contact information for program officers and candidate eligibility, instruction to apply, including submission due dates, which for each of the funding mechanism we have 3 due dates each year. All right. And I will be here for this conference, for this meeting, and this is my contact information. If you want to, you have a question or want to chat, just send me an email. So with that, good luck.
Thank you.